Emotions are a supernatural part of being human. All of us will feel emotions at some point, and yet we might find some of them very uncomfortable and we might try to stay away from them as much as we can. And for you, that could be anger, that could be guilt, shame, sadness, or disappointment. I think everyone has different emotions that they find challenging, but I think all of us struggle with them at some point in our lives. And we can spend so much time distracting ourselves from emotions or numbing ourselves or basically avoiding situations that might bring up those emotions. And those habits can become more damaging than the actual feeling itself. Because usually, with the feeling, if you just allow yourself to sit in it for a little bit, it feels really uncomfortable, but then it sort of dissolves after a while. Whereas if we try to avoid them at all costs, we might develop really destructive habits. Like we might find ourselves overeating or just binge watching TV or, all of those things that aren't wrong per se, but if we do them to avoid our feelings, they can become quite damaging to us. And so leaning back into uncomfortable feelings is such a great step to being free from them in a way. Um, and that might be really challenging at first, but you can really start by noticing when something comes up that feels like you want to distract yourself or you want to avoid that feeling. And every time you can choose to access it anyway, to process it, it's kind of a win. So it's really about sort of slowly building the capacity for an emotion. And that might look like you notice that something sort of hits you and it feels uncomfortable in a way, and you want to grab your phone and go on social media, and you pause and you just take a few breaths while you notice the sensations. And the interesting thing is that with emotions, your body will usually tell you what's going on. So if you can just breathe into that feeling a couple of times and just stay with the emotion, you usually notice what your body wants to do. Now, if what you're feeling is sadness, you might feel like crying. With anger, it might feel like clenching your fists or like, you might feel a tightening in your body. Or you feel like a pit in your stomach, and just sort of let that happen. Just sort of see what your body naturally wants to do and stay with that for a little bit. And just breathe into it for a while without feeling like you have to change it, without feeling like it has to be any different. Um, it can feel really uncomfortable at first, especially if this is something that you haven't done in a long time. But you'll notice after a while it does dissolve, like the feeling won't stay. And if it's really truly overwhelming, it can be quite helpful to do this with someone you trust, with a practitioner, the first few times to lean into that feeling sort of in safety. But every time you do it, every time you allow yourself to feel that emotion that you find so uncomfortable, you no longer need to like run from it or avoid it. And you no longer need the habits that come with it. And it really creates so much free time. It really frees up a lot of space for you to do other things, for you to go and build your life. So really the short-term discomfort is worth so much in the long run.